can't believe I'm regretting not watching more isekai anime. How the heck do I get back to the real world? Oh.
A solemn voice calls to her. Far beyond the known world, it reaches towards them as it reaches in a very day. What strange things will you see when they open your skin? What strange ideas will you believe when the veil grows thin?
Welcome to the Monkey Show. How are you guys doing? Let's get this game started. The game? The show. The show started. Now, just going to do some work today. That's all we're doing today. And maybe promote, the Kickstarter. So sit back, chill, do your thing, hang out with me. Share the link out, whatever. Help us get, make people more aware of what we're doing with our work out here. Thank you so much for everybody that supported INCREDI-GIRL so far. Next up, we need you to support the Tortoise. This black and white manga comic book format print, just launched, ready to print and get it out to everybody. So thank you for hanging out with me today. I'm just gonna do some work, get some coloring done, and hopefully you guys want to check out what we're doing out here. Links in the chat for this thing. And yeah, yesterday I was a bit taken back, finding myself I got a bit emotional on live stream yesterday after, I guess what we could call a tribute show for the Kyoto Animation 7-year anniversary of the arson attack on the animation company. One of the leaders actually at the time. And I was watching it, and I was like, I got kind of my voice broke, and I was like, I got to hold it together, man. I don't want to come out looking like some, melting down on stream. But I think it's, seeing like 36 people, and not just, it's sad just to see, hear and know that like 36 people lost their life, but it was one of the most horrific incidents in Japan. And yesterday was an anniversary, and it affected a lot of people who are in anime, manga and anime, because Kaio Annie was like part of a lot of friggin' amazing historic animation that, and because the number one studio that they had in Kyoto was the one that was, that was attacked. So I went through yesterday looking at all the things that they had done. So while I do some coloring, I'm going to, color flatting, I should say, not coloring, right? I want to show you some of the, before I get into it, into my work, what they actually put out, right? So this is a list of, and you can find it here. It's under the companies list for Kyoto Animation. And this is what they put out over the decades, right? Like Steam Boy, right? 2004, Dairomon, Pokemon, the first movie, Inuyasha, Clannad, Pompoko, Only Yesterday, Pokoroso, and of course my favorite from, one of my favorite of that year, and probably still my favorite now, Violet Evergarden, right? But some of the other ones here, excuse me, Full Metal Panic. So yesterday I started watching this, Hayuka, and it's pretty cool. I kind of enjoyed it. It's about about four students who are part of a club, a history society or literature club. That's what it's called, a literature club, right? And literature. Yeah, me and L's and R's are really bad pronunciation. Sorry, but yeah. So Hayuka, if you want something a bit, just calming, a bit more just different, this is the one to watch. I kind of found out like it's only got, I think, let me see here, let me just go to the so I can show you guys because I was like going through, it's like, so I like supernatural mystery type stuff, and this one seemed a bit different because it came out about 14 years ago. Is it 14? Yeah, 2012, right? 14 years ago. Gosh, dates are really messed up now when I'm, the older you get, you don't know what year, it's like, feels like it's just yesterday. And then it's like, oh, wait, it was a decade ago. So it centers on Araki Hotaru and his life in the classic literature club. His mundane world is flipped upside down as they begin to solve various mysteries. So it's like teenage detectives, right? But it's very it's not like overly action packed, but I thought it was quite cool. I kind of enjoyed it, and I've been watching it. Watched a couple last night, and I thought it was quite cool. So I'm giving like 7 out of 10. I think I'm up to about this one here, and it's about this girl here, Iru, I think, who and the history of the literature club, which is like about 45 years ago, 46 years old. And so they go into it, kind of like trying to, excuse me, turn this music down, it's too loud in my ears. They go into it trying to figure out what happened 45 years ago to her uncle, right? Iru's uncle, like he was a part of the group 45 years ago. And now the group is, the classic literature club is about to shut down. And so they decide, his sister, Hotaru's sister in India, she's doing like this OE, and she used to be part of the club. And she learns that the club is going to be shut down. So she writes a postcard to Hotaru and says, hey man, I need you to go back and start up the club. And that's how it gets started up. So it goes from nobody to finding Iru there in the classroom. And then his friend comes in, and then another friend comes in from his childhood. And the four of them start researching into this history of this club. So it's kind of different. Like, I mean, I know in New Zealand, we don't have these sort of like clubs in schools, like in high schools, right? You don't have like a music club. You don't have like a manga art club, And so it's kind of interesting for me, like looking back at, I really didn't like high school, to be honest. I actually didn't like school at all. I often found myself with with the bad crowd, or being bullied by the bad crowd. It was like weird. But And then I became like part of the cool kids, and then it was like, oh, then the cool kids are the bad kids, and I was like, how the hell are you supposed to manage high school when everything's like that? So anyway, so I find like I don't often watch high school animes or read high school mangas, right? But I thought I'd give this one a go. So yeah, so far 7 out of 10. But I want to get back to the Kyoto, all the over the decades that they worked on, right? This is a cool one. I like Melancholy of Haruhi Suzumiya, right? Of course, Amagi Brilliant Park is like, I think it's like the animals thing. Yeah, that was pretty cool. Kind of enjoyed this one. So if you haven't seen this one, this is funny. I won't play like trailers. Like I played trailers yesterday, and then next thing I know, I got like the video of the live stream got blocked yesterday. So I was like, wait, what? I can't play trailers on a live stream to promote the thing we're talking about, right? The company we're talking about, or the anime or the manga that we're talking about. It's like there's no sort of like, it's weird. Like you can like, if you're a big big subscription, whatever, YouTuber, if you're monetized, whatever, you can do all that and nobody gives a shit, right? But if you're a small one with like 300 subs or something, or even 50 subs, you can't play it. But then there'll be people who play entire anime, like they will put into a 3-4 hour entire season of anime, and YouTube doesn't bat an eye. It's like there is no sort of rules to this thing anymore. It's like, well, can I not play a trailer? Okay, fine. But then how can somebody else can play an entire season of anime, right? Miss Kobayashi's Dragon Maid is pretty cool. Kind of enjoyed that one. I haven't really watched any Doraemon, so I don't know much about it. Robotech, of course, if I remember right, I've watched it. Not finished it, but I think I've watched it. So there's a lot of amazing things that Kyoto Animation had put out. So you can, like, I put the link out there to go check out all they worked on, right? And I was quite surprised. There was Akira was part of this as well somewhere. It wasn't like that they were part of the original, working team on it. So that kind of surprised me. Pokemon, again, Violet Evergarden. I don't know if I've seen this one, so I'll have to go back and Eternity Auto Memory Doll. I'm sure I've seen it because I totally love the series. Crusher Joe is one that you got to watch. It's like the 1983 classic, just hardcore, like what do you call it? Hard-boiled detective type thing. So yeah, so let's get back to doing some work. Now, get my screen up. So today I'm just going to be doing some coloring. This is just like, I thought I'll grab a coffee, grab a cake, and just do some work and talk about what we're doing here with this project that we're going to be releasing probably about October, in time for Halloween or something like that. I'm kind of planning it, which is a mature reader. I guess it would be like a M15 New Zealand rating, nudity, topless nudity, stuff like that. As you can see here, right? Risque imagery. We've got issue 1's already completed. This is and like colored it, everything, lettered, everything's done. So here I'm doing color flatting. Issue 2. So I'll go through and like I just grab a couple pages, and in between the pages, I'll choose like, okay, this is the one I want to work on today, and do the color flatting. And it's not always in sequence, but if I see the same colors on the same, on another page, or the character on another page, I'll do the same thing. So I've done a couple here. One of the things I've figured out, like sometimes you don't really need to really, really, do a lot of, over the top coloring sometimes on these. If your art looks a certain way, you don't have to like really, overly color it, right? So this is just me color flatting this character, right? I think his name is Paul on this one, and as you've seen, it's like the dude with the knife. So there's that one, and then of course right now our INCREDI-GIRL #1 just funded on links in the chat, of course, flowing on bottom. I'll just put it up again. Funded on Kickstarter on the Rising Sun page. That's our what we call it, like our publisher. So our INCREDI-GIRL always gets printed. Released on their page. So we've already 100% funded. Let me see where we are at with this now. Let me grab that. Are you going to let me see it? There we go. Yeah, we've had 5 backers. We're 100% funded with 26 days to go. Let me change the song. I think it's just playing the same song. There we go. Wait. Let's play Veil. These are songs I wrote, and then I use AI to turn it into a. You can turn it into music for me, and the style of music I want. So there's no copyright on that. Okay, so let me just play the trailer for, and then I'll get back into work, right? So get these things out of the way. Okay, let's do this.
INCREDI-GIRL. From the earth to the sky, let's fly. From New Zealand shores, land a long white cloud. Rises a young hero, strong and proud.
Flying through the sky, young and old. Watch her fly through the air. In bright blue sky. Orphan child, straight out of Romania. Rose from the pain, now she's owning the atmosphere.
INCREDI-GIRL, superhuman strength, protecting the innocent of the plunge universe from Strasnik 9 criminals.
INCREDI-GIRL, power from within, red, white, and blue, here to help me and you.
Through pain and turmoil, she rose from the ground.
INCREDI-GIRL, no better friend around.
Nano by her side, together they fight crime.
Protecting the innocent time after time. INCREDI-GIRL,
Superhuman strength, protecting the innocent of the plunge universe from Strasnik 9 criminals.
INCREDI-GIRL, power from within, red, white, and blue, here to help me and you.
Quick and short, I guess, 9 seconds. So there we go. We 100% funded, 5 backers. I wonder, like, did he get like the full, like the one-off tier? Is that the one that like took us over? You know. So yeah, this is a collab with Rising Sun Comics that we've done, and it's INCREDI-GIRL's the #2. Like this one here is the #2 issue. #1 was released about 2 years ago, I think. Was it 2 years ago? I think so. And we with our books, everything we release is completed, right? So there's nothing unfinished. Oh no, I got to get a cover done. Oh no, I got a card done. No. Everything is completed once we go onto Kickstarter. It's always like 100% finished. And that's because I want people to know that we're not fluffing around, that you guys can trust us, that when we say the work is done, the work is done. And the only time we put our stuff on Kickstarter when it's 100% completed. So yeah, there's it's 32-page color comic book, all ages, so you can give it to your kids or give it to your dad, or your mom, whatever. It's like written in a way so it's like it's not dumbed down or anything, but it's also safe enough for kids. Kind of like I guess the way comics should be. If you're gonna all ages comics should be, I should say. Yeah, so the artist on this is Kevin Zimmerman, American artist, and colorist on this is George Blanco. He's worked with quite a lot of people. Makosia, let me see. I think I've got his, like the colorist, So let me see if I can find him. He's got there we go. His this is his Instagram. If you can check out his colors and stuff he's worked on for other companies, and artwork he's done. So not so sure if that's his artwork, but we had him do colors for us, right, for this work. So you can see the colors he did for us there. You can check out his George Luis Blanco is his name. Check out his Instagram in case you need a colorist. Because we already had because our comic book looked a certain way for issue 1, I wanted to make sure that it sort of continued because we didn't have the same colorist on this one. This is the 4 cover. This is cover B. And of course, all our all our tiers are on the low end priced because we want you guys to have the books, right? So digital is only $3 US, $10 for the 32-page full color, and then $12 for B cover. So it's it's only $2 difference between the A and B cover, and $5 difference between the A cover and limited 50 issue manga cover, C cover, right? And then 15 difference between with the full cover, and that's only limited to 25. So if you grab one of these, you're only one of 25 people in the world to have them, right? Same thing with that, one of only 50 people to have that. And of course, these are unlimited, both the A and B covers. And they're all done by different artists. So, Kevin's done the series artist, Kevin's done the cover A. All our cover A's are always done by interior artists. So you know what you're expecting if you buy, if he's a cover A. Art-wise, Joachim Hagstrom, he's working on a fantasy comic for us. And he did the cover for us for this. But he also did the cards and stickers for this book as well. So I'm really excited to showcase Joachim's work. And he's a Swedish artist from Sweden. And then, of course, our manga artists. We were talking to Tomas yesterday when we launched the manga comic book, right? The Tortoise. This is the link for that. If you want to grab that link, you can check it out later. And so we had Tomas do that. I did the color flats, and then he finished off the colors on that. And then, of course, the artist whose work I'm actually coloring now is James Hill. He did the cover for this. So we did this as a poster for issue 1, But I liked it so much, I thought, why don't we put it as a foil cover, right? Just a blank, no minimal lettering, no titles or anything, except for a little, let me go back up here. There you go. You can see all the pages are all completed, all the lettering, all laid out, 32 pages, the back cover, the front cover, right? 2-page spread. Also, this comes with a pull-out poster, right? 2-page pull-out poster. And all the information is there. Is it there? You see? This was a free poster that was done for us by Edwin Artex Badillo. And you can find him on Facebook. There's this is the postcards that we did as a different thing to, stickers this time. And so instead of doing stickers, we did, where are we here? We did postcards instead and character cards. There's also a 3D add-on poster, a mini poster, which is like a 7 by 10 inch. So it can fit in a Gemini, so there's no extra cost on freight to anybody, right? Here are the 4 cards that Iwakim did, the villain cards. And they're all part of the Plunge Universe trading cards, right? And I want to show you guys, the cover. So this is all you'll see on the cover, right? It'll say variant cover D, artist Iwakim, James D. Hill, and INCREDI-GIRL number 2. And they've got the foil cover for cover D. I class this as a virgin foil, right? Or some people call it blank, but a blank is just like white, right? So I call it a virgin cover. So there's no major trade dress, which is what they call like your company's logo here and your title. Where are we? Show you this one here. Like this stuff, right? And this and stuff like that on the cover. So each cover is slightly different from everything else. Like in this cover here, the logo's at the bottom. There's no studio name here, whereas like in this one, you got studio name and so on. So I always try to do something different. So with this one, I made sure that to make it different, we put out postcards and also a pull-out poster, right? I don't know if anybody still does them, but I know I wanted something different for this comic book. And so I put a pull-out poster in the middle, and it doesn't affect the story. So as you can see here, like actually, let me zoom in there so you can see it. Did I go too far down? I think I went too far down. Yeah. So on one side is like a letters page, or I'm sorry, artist bio, colorist bio, and the other side is like an information page, letters page, editor's notes. But so if you pull this out, it won't affect if you want, if you got a kid who likes to put posters on the wall, this is who this is for, right? Like I said, this is an all ages comic book. So they can pull it out and just stick it on the wall without affecting the comic book story, because the comic book story is on the other sides of, on the various other pages. So this is let me see, 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12 with that one. 12, 16, 18, 12, 14, 16, 18, 20, 22, 23-page comic book. Comic book art, right? But a 32-page comic book. All right, I better get some work done. Otherwise, I'll be rambling on about that. So this is what I was talking about, like with, this is the comic book that the cover artist, right, for the cover D, for INCREDI-GIRL, is the artist on the series. So he's currently working on issue 3, illustrating issue 3, and I'm here color flatting issue 2, and we've finished issue 1, but we haven't released it yet, because I want to at least have issue 3 completed ink-wise before we start like releasing number 1, and that's so that we can keep on a regular schedule with releases for that, for this book. This is called Templeton, by the way, and I created Templeton, I guess about 2011. Yeah, I think it was 2011. And when I first wrote the story or designed, came up with a character, it was a short story actually it wasn't a short story. It was a full-on 90-minute film script, comic book script, whatever, for John Constantine, Hellblazer. And it was about, it was called Black Waters. Excuse me, I'm getting too much phlegm in my mouth. I need my coffee. There we go. Okay, so when I wrote it, it was like, because I just read Garth Ennis's story. I think it was set in Australia, and I was like, man, that's such a cool story for the Constantine book and story arc. And I was like, you know what I should do? I should do one with like Hindu gods, right? And Fiji and Fiji gods and stuff like that, their spiritual side of things, their indigenous culture. So I came up with the idea of Black Waters, and so the name of the title comes from the Black Waters of Fiji, when the when the Indians arrived from India to take over from plantations from slaves, right? So they took over as indentured laborers, and a lot of them died on the first ship that came over, called the Leoides. Hold on, Leoides ship. I think I spelled it wrong, but we'll see what happens. And so, and it crashed on the waters because they didn't know that there was rocks under the waters outside Suva, right? And so, let me see if I can find it. Indentured labor. So, and this was after I'd done like a 5-year research on this topic. Leonidas, right? And so the Leonidas, was it Leonidas? Yeah. So you can actually find out what happened if I think WikiLeaks is something. I mean, not Wiki. Is it WikiLeaks? No, Wikipedia, right? It's not something you can like 100% trust, but there are a lot of stuff about that, and talks about how it was named after the King Leonidas of Sparta, right? The ship. And so it was a labor ship, a schooner, right? Transporting, and it plays a historic part in the formation of Fiji, because it brought all these Indians from India as indentured labor, right? Because just after slavery ended, what they decided to do, like, you sign a contract and you work for 5 years with that contract agreement, right? And so what happened then was that they'd bring all these Indians, would be like thinking, oh, it's just across the river, right? Across the ocean, just across the water. But they don't realize it was like on the other side of the world. A lot of them got cheated into coming over to Fiji. A lot of them didn't know where they were going. They just wanted a way out of India, because a shithole like India, anybody knows it's a shithole, right? The culture is really, nobody needs to tell anybody about what the culture is like in India, right? For the poor people. And so the poor people wanted to get out. The doctors and so forth, business people wanted to get out, make something better for themselves, because they got to, bro, there's a country where they need laborers, man. 5 years, save up all you can and start up a business, or raise your family, you'll be all good. However, it was basically a tampered down version of slavery. So if you go looking at the history of indentured labor in Fiji, you'll find that like there was 35 years of atrocious undertakings, and yet you'll find that like despite all that, you don't have a lot of Indians in Fiji screaming about reparations, right? Because they know what they left behind in India, and how good it is to be in Fiji for them now, right? All that they all the Fijians, they've had, the Indians, right, I should say, they've had their moments of, in the bad side of things, coups and all that. But if you really think about it, Fiji isn't a third world country, right? It's people work hard, they make a life of themselves, they don't moan and bitch about how bad life is and stuff, and they get shit done. And also with New Zealand and Australia, because it was part of the British colony, you could actually come and get scholarships in New Zealand and Australia to expand, to go to university and stuff. So a couple of my grandfathers actually traveled to New Zealand and Australia. I had uncles that went to Australia, lived in Australia. I got to go to Australia when I was like only, when I was a kid, because, when my mum got married and came to New Zealand, we went to Australia when I was like 8 years old to visit my uncle, who was actually working for one of the top chefs in Australia at the time in his kitchen, called, I think it was Bennett King. That was his name. And so, he was being trained by one of the top chefs in Australia at that time. So you won't hear a lot of, there was books written about it. I've read books about it. There's like Tears in Paradise is a good book to read. It just gives you an account of what went down. Some of the atrocious stuff that the former slave overseers did, and the way they treated people during the 35 years from 1885 to, I think it was 1885 to 1920. So yeah, if you've never heard of indentured labor or anything like that, do look it up, man. And do look up this ship, and you'll find out, when I said like the Black Waters and stuff, you'll find out like, that the ship crashed, right? And a lot of people drowned. And the other thing was like there was like about a total of 498 passengers, made up of 273, like they say here, 273 men, 146 women, and 79 children, right? According to Wikipedia. Now, under the 79 children under the age of 12, right? They embarked from the ship of Calcutta. While 3 days out to sea, there was an outbreak of cholera and smallpox aboard the ship. Despite efforts by the surgeon superintendent to isolate infected passengers, 17 died already, right? They didn't even get to arrive. They died on the ship after a journey of 32 days. Since there was no quarantine facility in Levuka, that's in Fiji, it was decided to anchor the ship some distance from Levuka on the leeward side. While attempting to reach the selected anchorage, the ship went aground on a reef. The gravity of the situation was all too vivid in the minds of government officials, as some 4 years earlier, a measles epidemic had wiped out 40,000 Fijians, indigenous Fijians, right? So at high tide, the ship floated over the reef and was safely anchored. Now, then they were quarantined. So you got all these stuff, right, that happened. And before, just after slavery ended. So people don't talk about this sort of stuff, right? So who takes over the plantations? Who takes over the fields, growing all that food that everybody needs around the world? Pineapples and stuff. And that's what indentured labor, replaced. So a contract was written up. Hey, you go there for 5 years. Then you can leave, and you'll be given land, like the quarter acre and a mule kind of thing. My grandfather's father was given land, and we basically, our family still is on that land for about, it's been like 90 years or something like that. We've been there, and it's freehold, right? It was like paid for by blood, sweat, and tears, right? And so they live there, and I mean, it's been part of our family heritage, and lots were carved up for each, each family member. And then, like actually it was carved up where the sons were given it, because sons are the ones that stay at the home. Daughters get married off and they go with the other family, right? Whereas the sons were given the pieces of land, and you had this, and they could like do whatever they wanted with it. Some sold it off, to travel and so on, or so some sold it off to each other, stuff like that. Now, and also there's land in Fiji that like you can actually, let me just figure out what I'm doing here. There's actually freehold, and then there's also land that's owned by the government, and then there's land owned by the Tukiaki or something like that. It's like the chiefs, like indigenous people, they own land, and they can actually rent that land out to you, right? So you can actually lease that land out for about like a 30-year period. Otherwise, it sits there, does nothing, right? So you rent that land out, build your house on it, farm it, do whatever you want. And each of the lands come with restrictions. Like you can only have one house on it, and this area has to be used for, you can't do, you can't continually build homes on it to make it into a business, stuff like that. Unless it's like, it's agreed upon in the lease, that's what you can do. So with the Black Waters, when I started researching Fiji, I was like, oh man, this is an interesting story to do about the gods of Fiji, the indigenous Fijian people, and what their, what their belief system was, but also integrate that into the Hinduism of Fiji. Like there's like about freaking 80,000 gods for Hindus, which is like crazy, right? It's like, how do you know which one's the real one if you got there's 80,000 of them? And this is what I know keeps the poor of India poor, because the rich people don't really give a shit about that, right? About religion and all that, because all they care about is money and making profit. But like with the poor, they're like, oh, they want to get to heaven, get out of this misery life, right? Rather than going, oh, I think it's better if we like save up instead of giving offerings to the gods, right? To the 80,000 gods. So, I mean, and this is where like Christianity came in and said, listen, man, it was like almost like lifted the Hindus out of their poverty mentality and their slavery mentality in the caste system, which is why a lot of Hindus became Christians, because they realized, dude, this whole system that we're living under is keeping us poor, and we don't we don't have to do all these stuff and offer all this money and gold and riches to the gods, right? When we could just wait. No, I did it. Hold on, I messed up. There we go. I was supposed to use this one. And so they stopped, they just basically decided, well, no, I'm not going to be Hindu anymore. And I'm, and I might not even be Christian anymore, but I'm not going to live in this friggin' bullshit religion called Hinduism that's going to keep me in poverty for the rest of my life. And not only me, but my children's children and my children's children and their children's children and their children's children for generations. It's a bit like Islam, right? Islam makes everybody stupid. So, and you see like with that religion, like something like about 60% of them are illiterate. And I think it's 70% is about illiterate, and 60% in Europe, right? Wherever they go, they're unemployed. they just figured out. They did a survey in Britain, I think it was, or in Europe, I can't remember, but they found out that like 60% of Muslims are unemployed. Wow. And so what does that mean? That means that like when they live in your country, in Europe and Britain and England, America, they're living on the, of other people's hard earnings, right? Of the citizens' money. And this is why they vote for socialism all the time, right? This is why you get people voting in these crazy, weird people, because that goes against the very, mentality of Western civilization. That is that you work hard and, and that you build something for yourself and for the future for yourself, right? As I mentioned, like with Hinduism, right? It was like, we'll keep you stuck in this religion for forever, right? You're generationally poor. So if you look at the caste system, you'll find it like the caste system is one of the most horrible things in in society, next to these stupid religions, right? That entrap people. But with religion, you can leave it, right? But with the caste system, once you're born into it, especially in India, right, you gotta like just get out of the country and go elsewhere and live that way. But one thing I've noticed, like in certain countries where there's a higher, what they call the Brahmins or higher class Indians, they will actually, even in the West, will look down on the lower class Indians if they find out that they're lower class. And usually it has to do with surnames and where you're from. And sadly, they're all too happy to, treat others like that, as a lower class. And that's why, when I was talking about like Fiji and Indonesia, that's why like you see that in a lot of Indians don't talk about it, about the past. They don't mention reparations because they don't want to talk about it because, hey, it wasn't a great time. And they also want to get on with their life, right? They know what it's like to be a victim, and they don't want to be living that victim mentality. So you'll find that a lot of Indians actually are successful from Fiji, sorry, right? Whose family, whose forebears left, 100 years ago or so. Actually, it's over. I think it's around about 150 years. I think it's going up to now. And so it's really history is really interesting, man. And when I was learning that, because I never knew about that, because I came to New Zealand when I was only about 7 years old, so I wasn't taught any of that or knew any of that until 2005. And my brother said, and that's 21 years ago, right? My brother said to me, "Do you know anything about this?" I said, "Nope. What you talking about?" It's like, "Well, this is the history of Fiji." I said, "Oh, okay. Let me find out more." And so I spent like 5 years, like reading as much information as I could, doing as much Google searches about the topic and about what happened and all the other countries, Mauritius, Africa, Australia, the other countries, all these other countries that where Indians also went to. Malaysia, right? Thailand, just to get out of the caste system, right? To make a better life for themselves. And I think a lot of that's why I don't like victim mentality. I think when you put yourself into into that mentality where like, oh, poor me, oh my, it's everybody else's fault, not mine, right? That my life is the way it is. You can only do that for so long before it becomes part of your brain, right? And it becomes part of your emotional, mental thinking, where then it starts taking over your life, right? It's like, oh, why me? Everybody sucks. And then you start attacking people. You start blaming people instead of going, well, how do I manage my life out of this situation? And you'll find that a lot of people who actually live that way, they sadly, their whole you'll find that they actually raise people like that as well. If they have children, they'll raise children just like that to think like them, right? And it's really sad because you'll see generations of people just like miserable because blaming everybody else for their problems. Yet then they look at other people, they're successful, and they'll go out of their way to bring them down. It's like somebody said, well, I think there was like a little short I saw yesterday. It was really interesting, and I cannot remember exactly what it was, but it was like if you're skinny, then people think you're unhealthy. If you're fat, that means you're too you eat too much and you're greedy. And if you're rich, that means that that you're stealing off people to become that way. Or if you're poor, then you're lazy, right? So you can never win with people, right? Because everybody's always gonna make other people feel a bit worse about themselves so they can feel better, right? And yesterday, like going back to Kyoto animation, right? 7 years ago with that dude, Shinji Aoba, the guy who burnt, basically firebombed the place and killed 36 people. And artists, by the way, animation artists who were like quality, talented, skilled people, right, in Japan, all because he felt like that stole from it, even though like he was knocked down in the first round of competition. It's like, they use this, and all it was like there was like generic setting that's in like you can find in any animation, but like he was like, they owe me, and so he just killed 36 people and injured 33. That's his victim mentality, right? Where it gets to a point where you attack, ruin other people's life because you haven't got a hold of your own life. You haven't got control of your own life. And so everybody's got to take the fall. And in this case, 36 people had to die because this guy was a miserable shot, piece of shit. And he felt that everybody owed him something, right? That they had stolen from him. Yet people didn't even know who the hell he was because, even in the competition, because he basically wrote some sort of generic shit, and it wasn't, he was knocked out in the first round of the competition. And then he took that as like, a personal attack that you stole it because a generic thing showed up in one of the, in an animation. And now he's got to go and murder 36 people as a result of that. By the way, he's still sitting on death row for the last 2 years, even though he's like condemned to death, right? And so everybody's going, why hasn't he lost his life? Why isn't he being hung or executed or whatever it is that they do in Japan to mass murderers? As I mentioned yesterday on the live stream, that there was like another guy that wanted to do the same thing. 59-year-old dude wanted to go out and just stab people in Shinjuku in Japan, right? Why? Because he had money problems. Because he was miserable, right? And so he thought, well, you know what? I'm going to get a one-way ticket and then go and harm people. Just kill people randomly, just random people in the street. Imagine that. Like one day you just go shopping, and next thing you don't come home to your family. And the thing was, the guy said like it didn't matter who it was. Children, elderly, woman, man, didn't matter. He was just going to do it. But the amazing thing was that, his friend realized what he was going to do and called the police and said, dude, you need to investigate this right now and arrest him because this is all on. And then he went and confessed it, right? When he got caught, when they arrested him, the police acted so fast because after after all these attacks that's been happening in society, right? It's an attack on society, right? That's the whole thing. It's like, because people like the whole victimhood affects them so much, they just blame everybody else. So they have to like ruin other people's life, and not knowing that maybe the other people are just having just as bad a time as he is, and they're not doing that, right? They're not choosing to go out there and murder people. But yeah, there are these sickos who blame people rather than take responsibility for their own lives, right? To change and do stuff, to better themselves or to get themselves out of that situation. It's easy to like blame others. It's so easy, bro, to blame others, right? When I was like in 2007, when I was like when I was in a car accident, which is basically bound me to the bed for like 2 years of my life, right? And forced me out of work. It was like I thought like my life was over, because I had a career that I was going to go into with filmmaking, and I had studied 3 years of my life for it. I got my did my bachelor's degree in filmmaking, and boom, 6 months out of like I think it was 7 months out of my studies, graduating, boom, couldn't even stand up. And as you know, like with filmmaking, you got to be like, especially if you're directing or if you're doing camera work, lighting, sound, you're usually just standing up. Like it's like 12-hour days of just standing up, sometimes longer, right? So if you can't stand, and you're trying to break into filmmaking, you can't show up and go, oh, sorry, I can't do this, I can't do that, I can't do that, right? And so I had to rethink, and reassess what I wanted out of my life. Did I want to just be like confined to the bed, or did I want to like keep being active? Even if it meant like walk around with a cane for a little bit, a couple hours a day, or a couple hours a week, right? 1 day a week, just to keep my body working, keep my my hips moving, so it doesn't like get stuck. And the first 2 years was really hard, right? And it got so bad that I actually separated from my wife, because I was like, I can't handle this shit. I was really depressed and stuff. And so separated, then got divorced, and then like things got really worse. But then like opened up a business in a comic shop, first did an online shop, right? Didn't work out. And then opened up a comic shop, did really well, but then we had competition who basically just copy pasted out what we had done. And so that in a small place like our city, you really can't have two shops, like the same pop culture shops, right? We had a comic shop, manga, gaming, card gaming, TCG and all that. So 6 months after being very successful and going, on the up and up, somebody decided like, okay, you know what, we're just going to copy paste and do exactly what what he's doing. And so that sort of sent me down a spiral. Not sent me down a spiral. It made it really bad to compete as a business, right? When you got two shops selling the same thing in a very small area, in a small population, right? And what happened is like even recently. So actually, let me finish the story, right? So in from 2014 to 2015, I think it was like about 18 months or 16 months later, I had to close down, because not only that I wasn't making, neither was he. And I was like, I don't want to go bankrupt, And so I went, okay, I'm going to close down. So we closed down, and then 6 months later, he closed down as well. And this is what happens when businesses just want to copy paste successful businesses without, doing the work to research, right? And figure out how to do things properly. You look at like people in the comic scene with crowdfunding. You look at Eric July, right? And I mentioned this because indie comics, right? So you look at Eric July, who was really successful and he used that money to hire more, professionals. And with hiring more professionals, he was able to, go his own way to build his own business his own way, getting advice from people that he felt like were supportive of what he was doing. And so the advice he got from people that they were supportive of him, not afraid of him, he was able to build this old stuff. Now he's got stuff in, he's got his books finished, his books to people. They say, well, it's going to be out in 6 months. You can pre-order. Boom, it's out, right? And also quality. The quality is changing, right? I guess because he's hired better people, right? Better people to work on it. And it's like me, like when I first did my first comic book with INCREDI-GIRL, when we started in 2007, right? It was just a web comic. It was very low key, black and white, not that really what it is now, right? A full color, professionally lettered, colored, drawn, whatever, and published book, right? Put together really nicely. But back then we were just doing web comics with that. And a lot of people out here in comics, they don't really, I just realized I have been covered. I guess I could fix that. I was doing her wings as well, like a bat wings, demon wings, as well as the bricks. So let's just do that, and I'll come back and fix the bat wings now. With excuse me, with when you copy paste and you try to do the same thing as everybody else, you can only last for so long, right? And you can only succeed for so long. So you always got to figure out how you're going to compete with other people when they come to, start challenging your business. And to do that, you got to have a lot of money saved up, right? To be able to say, move differently, right? When people come to challenge you. And I think the smart thing with Eric is that he was able to understand that. He was able to understand when the challenges came, that he was able to change with it because he saved up his freaking money, right? Unlike some people who go and gamble it, right? Or go to concerts and, instead of that, he just hired better people to work on his books, invested himself. And everybody was like, oh, you're doing this, and I was poo-pooing what he was doing, but he was smart, and that's what you got to do, right? You got to be smart, and you got to study business if you want to remain out here. And, comics is a business, right? Even if you got one comic book, you still got to know how to get it out to people, right? So you got to figure out who's going to publish it. Oh, you got to go get to a publisher, right? That's another business. You got to send it out. Oh, then you got to use a freight company. Well, that's another business. So, and all those businesses also know how to do business, right? And I think a lot of people in comics who steal, who defraud people, don't know business, sadly. So, and don't care to know business, right? They don't care to be professional about it. They don't care to treat people with respect, especially when they give them money for free, right? Because a lot of people out here using crowdfunding, they're not really honest people. And they just see a check at the end, a dollar sign at the end of oh, yeah, we're going to do this. We're going to do this. Let's put this cool cover up by so and pay them, $200, $300, $500, $1,000. Nice cover. Thank you. Now everybody, look, I got this guy's cover on my comic book. Now, yeah. And then 5 years later, you still don't have a product. Or 3 years later, or some cases, 8 years later, you don't have a product. And the person has stolen from you twice. Right? Or has stolen from people twice, I should say. So recently in my city, right? When I had my comic shop, I had a friend, a couple guys came in and said, "Hey, we'd like to do TCG in here." I said, "What the hell is that?" So, oh, we got it's this thing called Yu-Gi-Oh. We play card games, and it's like you get boosters and all that. It's like, well, I know nothing about it, dude, but you know what? If that's what you want to do, you tell me what I got to do. You guys run it, and I'll provide what I need to provide for you guys, right? So you just tell me what I got to order and stuff, and so I did that, right? So when I closed the shop in 2015, right, Christmas 2015, this group continued from their home, right? They started the group leader Eats, right? He started inviting people to his house to play, right? And so he said, "Hey, come over home, and come over to my place, and we'll play over home." And we'll he set up a deal with the people. I think at that time I said, "Oh, here's the contact for that you can buy the cards from, and go to this dude. These are the guys who bring them into the country. Buy the cards from this guy." So Ethan and them basically, started running a home base game, trading card game, right? And from that they started buying, and they, for each other. He would buy the boosters, and people would buy, pay him for whatever prepay, and they'll get it as a group, and so on. Man, I'm doing it again. Hold on. I'm supposed to be here. And I'm doing all this bricks again. Got distracted. And so they did that for quite a few years. And then also, I think about 5 years or so. And then one of the guys who was also part of that group, because there's 4 of them, right? And so let me just sort this out, because I know I had yeah, it's a 2 different tones. There we go. So one of them got hired as a tutor at a design school, right? And that was Phil. And so Phil, they started using after hours. They were able to be able to use the space with the business owners, like the school owners, whatever, managers, permission, use it as a place where they could have gaming, right? Where they could get together and game, and every Friday night, and they'd get together, and it built up from from I think they had about 20 or 30 at my shop to 60, right? And so this continued for a while, and then about 2-3 years ago, they decided to open up a business as a store, right? They got to open up a franchise store. I was asked, for for my input, right? And so I advised them. I said, "Okay, this is cool. This is what this is what you got to do. This is what you got to think about." So they went in and opened up a franchise trading card game store, right? Now, next to their store, there was a old hobby store, right? Like models and stuff. And that store had been like there forever. But this store, the store that opened up, the franchise, because it was like where it was like close to town, good traffic, walking traffic across from like the cinema. So, everybody would see when they came out the back door of the cinema, they could see this place. So it was good advertising, right? For them, good foot traffic, right? And, almost like smack dab, city center, right? But this old store that was there was a hobby store, used to be there forever. Like even when I was in business, even before I was in business. So it's like this old guy used to be there. It was like a rundown looking place. So it was really big and always empty, right? Hardly anybody in there because it just looked dead. And the thing about like stores is like, if it looks empty, people don't want to go in, right? It's kind of the thing about business, right? It's like there's a lot of mental thought behind business and how people think. And the other thing is like when I was at my store, like I've mentioned this before, that I studied like stores around the world for about a year before I even opened my comic book store, right? Because I wanted to be successful. So I did a lot of study, and I found that the one that I should do mine like was one that was in Australia, which was always winning competitions for the best store in the world, comic store in the world. So I learned a few things when I was doing that, right? Researching that, spending a whole year, before I even opened the door, researching what I should do and stuff. And there's a problem when you copy paste things. You don't know when something goes wrong, how to change with the times, right? So recently, I think it was about 2 years ago, something. Time goes so fast, man. I think it was about 2 years ago, maybe a year and a half ago. Someone else went and bought the old hobby store. They upgraded some of the stuff, but it was still big and empty, right? And they also tried to do the same thing that my friend was doing, right? $40K. You can't have a community that's supportive of a store that they helped get to where it is, that they helped the owners get to where it is because they were part of it for the last, 10 years, a decade, right? And then expect them to change to you because you just opened up a new store selling the same shit. So what happened was that shop this week closed down. Because they copy pasted. They didn't change from what they were doing before. They just changed, they didn't change the setup of the store. They didn't change the way the store looked. They didn't change how, the clientele, the type of clientele they wanted. Because the other thing about this is the way your business looks is the type of clientele that you will, bring in, right? Like you see like all these really expensive high-end bars, right, that sell like $100 bottles of liquor, right, or champagne by the bucket. That's and you got to go to this this specific area if you want to sit on the table. Well, that's going to cost you to buy this, right? You got to buy 4 buckets of this so you can sit down and whatever. You guys all seen that in the movies, right? And if you watch any docos about bars and stuff, you'll see that's there, right? And the mentality of the people who set those up. And also to bring a certain clientele, you got to have certain people coming to it. Like celebrities, you pay them like, okay, you show up here, you'll get so much so for showing up that day. Because that'll bring in people who are following that celebrity. so-called, before it used to be like before influencers, right? It was celebrity culture. Like so and so went to such and such bar. Wow, let's go check it out, right? And so that sort of thing. So this dude basically took over the store, as a new manager. I like bought it out, bought in a bit more flashy, up to date stuff like Gundam, Voltron models. Whereas before it was just like airplanes and shit and army people, right? So now it's a bit more, kind of more top shelf stuff, but the look was exactly the same. I only went in there twice in the time it's been open because I just found it was like, wait, what is with this place? Why does it look the same? Really hasn't done anything. And my friend next door, who's got a smaller store, right? Thin store, like there's a storefront and you've got like the counter. And then after that, you've got all the space in the back where they have the tables and chairs for gaming nights, right? And also they have tables and chairs so that you can actually go in there and it's set up so you can game during lunchtime, right? If you're on your day off, you could just go in and start, ask your friend or whoever's in there already to play a game with you. It's already set up to do that. So what that does, it tells people that, hey, you can go in there anytime you want and just relax and play a game or sort out your cards or whatever, right? Buy new cards. Store's always open. Whereas this other place was just you go in there and sell, you go in there and buy, right? That's it. So you can't create a community if all you're doing is selling stuff. And so sadly, I think it was this weekend was the closing down sale of that store, right? And it's like that whole, in business, you can't copy paste. You got to know what you're doing. And I think it's important to understand the environment, like the community that you're getting into. And I think this dude really, in the end, didn't understand that with the other store, right, my friend's store, they had a decade of support, community building, right? Even before they had a store, they were meeting at the owner's house to play these games, right? I feel like that a lot of people, these days they just want to copy paste what's out there, right? And a lot of people are doing that with comics as well, right? With crowdfunding. It's like, well, they're doing that, then we'll do this. Then you'll do that, like, they'll do this. Like, you look at Cody Dennison, right? Basically started up decide, he's going to write and die comic book, but it's not even made yet. We're going to put out this, this toy cars, not even made yet. So he's taken like something like about about $50,000 or something from people, from backers, his supporters, right? His YouTube supporters and all that. And yet he hasn't delivered on it. There's so many like that, and yet they still can get on stream and start talking about whatever else, but not about how much money they ripped off people, right? I think it's sad, like where you got YouTube has made people think that they can steal from people and not be accountable for their theft. That whole influencer, right? You can influence people into buying shit off you, but you don't have to deliver it. You don't have to give them what they're paid for. It's quite sad, though, I think. But that's where YouTube is now. Like how quickly you can make you can make money off it, right? Comic books is like the OF of YouTube. It's like okay, let's quickly do this bullshit comic book, get money, and then never deliver, and then carry on with life. Like we didn't even decide to do this. But I'm here for the long haul because this is all I got. This is all I want to do. This is all I care for, right? Making comics, telling stories. Telling stories has always been my dream. Doesn't matter what form, games, light novels, visual novels, right? Visual novel games, movies, short films, anything. Just even songs, right? You can tell stories and songs. I learned that from like listening to Iron Maiden when I was a kid, right? In my 15, 16 years old, 14 years old. Listen to Rhyme of the Ancient Mariner, Alexander the Great. Bands just telling me about the history of Alexander, who was Alexander the Great. Like, oh, that's just a story, man. Rhyme of the Ancient Mariner, Seventh Son of the Seventh Son, the supernatural folklore story about, the seventh son of the seventh son has a special power, right? Supernatural power. Aces High, talking about like the World War II bombers. Run to the Hills, talking about the Native Americans and their plight at the early stages. But they also wiped out a lot of people as well. The Native Americans wiped out a lot of I guess you could say indigenous, right? Wiped out a lot of tribes that don't exist anymore. So you can't always go, oh, it's the white man's fault. White men did this. Yeah, well, I mean, you also wiped out a lot of people too yourself, right? You look at Mayans, man, they were sacrificing humans. The poor people were getting sacrificed by the rich people, their leaders, right? The rulers. Wiping out entire tribes to steal from them, to take what they had. People some people just want to see the world through modern eyes, right? What we call rose-tinted glasses, right? Every tribe was trying to massacre another other tribe. Every people were trying to take over the other people's resources. Never going to stop. It's just the way it's human nature. Technology just gets advanced. I was thinking about earlier about when you write stories, when you create characters, you want to make your character. You want to make your good guys good and your bad guys bad, right? So that people get empathize with the hero or supposed hero, right, or the lead character, and their plight, and their and their part of the story. If you don't have empathy for a character, then that character is useless. In a sense, if you can't empathize with, the lead character, right, or supporting characters, or where the story is going. But also, you can create really horrible characters as well, as we all know, right? Villains got to be one of the greatest villains of all time is, fictional villains, of course, is Joker. One of the, there's quite a few actually, real historical villains, right? Who are actually just as bad as the fictional characters that we make up. But sometimes reality is worse than fiction, right? Just thinking back to that guy, who killed 36 artists in one day. This is a supernatural story about a dude named Christopher Templeton, who finds himself in hell, working as a soul collector. That's him here. And his job is basically, well, he gets a list every day, right? And him and his buddy was his boss, Placenta, which is this dude here. So you only can see the back. Actually, let me open up another one with him. Actually, just save that for a bit before I lose it. I did some background work the other day on one of the pages, and I closed it, the program, right? Closed the app, and I didn't realize that I hadn't saved it. Where are you, Placenta? Oh yeah, here you go. So here's Placenta here, right? His face. This is what he looks like here. Realize I need to finish that. Oh no, this is not. This is actually a promo page. It's not actually the web page I'm working on. So yeah, that's Placenta. Which reminds me, I should grab his. Is that the same tone? Yeah, it's the same tone. Yeah, so his job is basically to bring. Let's shove this on here and on there. So next time I'd have to go looking for the color tone, color splash, whatever, palette. So they get a list, and they have to go out and bring back all the souls allocated to hell. And, and the angel will go out and take all the souls allocated to heaven, right? Oops. Is it the one? Yeah, it's this one. Or am I wrong? No, it's this one. And so while he's out there, collecting bodies like souls, right? He comes across all these bodies that are marked in a weird way. They have this cuts on them, which is this triangle, right? So they get a triangle, and it doesn't matter if it's a man or female. That's what someone's cutting them up like that, right? After killing them. Just that comes up some sort of ritualistic, symbolic death. And so he basically starts going, well, why? Starts checking them out. He's going, well, what's going on? How come we're getting so many with the same, so many with the same symbols on them, like this ritualistic markings on them? And so, then we start start finding out there's a lot more of those happening, and it's just not. It's not. You know, as the story builds up, we find out it's not random, and that there's there's design to it all, and there's someone actually out there doing it on purpose. And so this is kind of like I guess it's a serial killer supernatural story. And he also, like, we don't know how long he's been in hell at this point, or in what we call hellscape in the Plunge universe. And so while he's there, he's also, we find out issue 2, spoiler, there's all these other things that, other characters that we bring into it. There's a historical thing, the origin of Templeton. And in issue 3, we go way back, right? Back to the past, like way, way back, like centuries back to the beginning of the world. And I'll show you this, like a little, let me get this white here before I, for the eyes, before I do anything else. There we go. Cool. So I want to show you this, how, talk about how we go back. So we go back to the times of the beginning of the world, right? And in issue 3, which James has just been working on, there's we've got this really cool design of this pyramid that I based in Indonesia or Thailand, I think. Time of the giants and stuff, like time of the fallen angels. So we go all the way back to the beginning of the world, right? And we get, and then you got, of course, you got Cerberus and hell, and then you got like this angel telling Templeton about this huge, beginning of the world story. And I think it's about 3 or 4 pages of it where we that's James has really done really amazing work on this. I just can't give him enough flowers on this. But also with the story, we have some, we cover some serious, topics as well. Because it's a mature reader comic book, I was like, let's cover some mature themes as well in this, right? And so, you've got like kind of the serial killer doing his thing, ritualistic, murders. But we also got, the story about the beginning of the world. You got the origin, you got a story of how Templeton ended up in hell, and all these other things, right? And why is he so special that he gets to go around, collecting souls, right? Because he's a human when he should be actually on a torture rack. So there's all these little subplots working around this in the first 6 issues of this arc. And remember, I mentioned earlier about like how there's like this first book I wrote, which started this whole thing, this character, right, and the story, Blackwaters, and Blackwaters actually ends up being the second story, right, story arc, and hopefully, we're able to make, put this out as a successful book, so we can do that as well, you know, and hopefully we can have James work on Black Waters as well, which is where we'd go into like the whole uh, indigenous Fijian um, gods, and then we also go into Hindu gods, and so I had to go back and rewrite this. I mean, do this like an origin story, because I don't want to keep. Oh, I wanted this one to be all about hell, kind of like that. Just lot of angels and demons, right? And with James, he does amazing. He does really amazing work on designing demons. It's really, really good. Do some bricks here. I'm using Celtics, not Celtics, sorry, Clip Studio Paint, if anybody's wondering. It's something I've been using for at least about 20 years, before it was even called Clip Studio Paint. And I'm working on a Wacom Touch, even though you don't use the touch part of it. It's a Cintiq 16-inch. I was able to get this really cheap because because the on-off switch, the actual cover for it was broken, and so the person, like, I saved like about $3K on it. Right, if I was to buy this brand new, it'll be about $3K NZ. But the fact I paid a fraction of it because like the cover was broken, and like the on-off switch is actually pokes out of it, out of the hole, and that's about it. Apart from that, it works perfectly. I used to have two Wacom Intuos 4s. They're just like this black slab, right? There's no screen on it, and you just draw on it while looking up at the monitor. Whereas this one is just like lying in my lap, and I'm just like drawing on the screen itself because the picture's on the screen. If you're thinking about getting, a tablet like this, I think I had a friend. Actually, I did have a friend this week or this past week post on a artist site saying, "Hey, what sort of digital, tablets do you guys use for drawing?" And so I had to tell him, I use this. I mean, I didn't have to, but I told him like I had to because he's a friend, right? I use this, and I find it really easy. But I also find like because it's only like about, I guess, 30 centimeters from my eyes, 30, 40 centimeters from my eyes. And I wear glasses, right? So my eyes get a bit tired after a couple of hours. So in about 20 minutes, I'm going to basically stop doing this and take a break, and that'll be that for today. It feels like I haven't done anything. Well, we covered a lot of discussion. I mean, I've talked about a lot of shit, right? The other thing I noticed is that the screen doesn't give up that much heat either. You know, usually if you go like, you know, a laptop on your lap, right, it gets hot. But these Wacoms, they don't give off that much heat. Like on my hand itself, right, on my fingers. It's a bullet hole. The other thing with this, the story is that he has twin daughters, and we introduce the twin daughters in Critical number 1, and they have they're like magicians, you know, supernatural powers, right? And so this actually is part of the mature reader set in the in the Plunge universe, because all the comics we release are part of the Plunge universe. They all fit into it, you know, one way or another. And the aim is to like be able to like have people, you know, grow up with us from reading like INCREDI-GIRL as a child, whatever, you know, teenager, and then go on to read these older books as they get older, you know. But I know like not everybody's gonna like worry about the age restrictions, right, or care about how old you know, they have to be to read a certain book. But I'm doing my due diligence and saying, well, this is a mature reader book, right? Did I miss anything? There's a spot here. Okay, let's go get my purple, my red, and then my purple hair from there. I'm reading this. I don't often read. Like, I mean, like I do read, right, every day, but I don't often read comic books or manga because whenever I need to read, I just play a visual novel comic book, visual novel game, right? And visual novels where like it's like a choose a path game with words on the screen, right? Sometimes you have animation, short animation videos, animated videos, I should say, not animation videos, and sometimes you don't in these games. And they're becoming more and more popular because and I've noticed that like a lot more games are becoming AI rather than 3D CGI. And so I reckon, give or take another 5 years, 50% of all games that will be coming out of visual novel will be AI animated or AI imagery. Whereas at the moment, and that's because it's allowing people to be able to bring to life what they were, I guess in a sense, couldn't because not knowing how to do the images and so forth, on their own, and then having to bring in somebody who can do that, especially with the writers. And this is why I see a lot of writers, I mean, not a lot, right? People turning to AI imageries for their comics rather than getting, some artists to do it because there's a cost factor to it. Making comics can be quite expensive even before you get to publish them, right? So gaming's, which, all online, digital, is going to see a lot of AI involvement because of that. I was playing one yesterday. I think I actually just wasn't playing it. I was just trying to, I opened it up to see, I downloaded it and opened it up to see what it was about because I didn't realize it was AI. And then it was basically a movie. You could actually, it was dubbed and you were watching a movie. So it gave you the option of a 2D, playthrough or a 3D movie. It's the first one I've seen there because they're done that way. Because all the other ones I'd seen, it was like, oh, there's some images of it, a bit of animation. But this one was the entire thing, was done all AI images, like video, AI, made movie. And I think you will find that a lot more people will be turning to that, even in comics, right? Either, in promotion, I'm all for that. But you also see that people will be bringing their comic books to life or short stories to life using AI movie makers, right? And of course, you're also going to get that coming to crowdfunding and people who say, help me fund my AI movie, right? I was looking at how to animate videos for music videos, right? For the songs that I write. And I'm like, well, you got to buy this, you got to buy that, you got to buy, monthly subscription. I'm like, well, the amount of monthly subscriptions I got to pay right now is way a lot than I want to be doing by adding another lot in, right? So yeah, no, we'll leave that alone for a while. And the reason I think that's going to be coming up more and more is because it means that people who've had all these great ideas to make, to make short films, to make movies, have written scripts, but have been rejected by studios or don't have the money to bring it to life. you know, don't know how to actually go about doing it, I'm just going to shove it into AI and go, okay, here, make my movie. You know, and at the end, the viewer isn't going to care about who made it, if the quality's good, right? If it's made by humans or not. So there's going to be a lot of people fighting against it, and a lot of people okay with it, and other people just not caring about it, either or. And the thing is, like, people like to say normies, right? I don't think that's a good way of saying, you know, classifying everyday folk, right? People who, you know, who just doing their work, wait, you know, then they go buy a ticket and go watch a movie. I don't think those people are going to care if it's made of AI or not. Just like I found out people don't care if your comic book is made with AI or not. We don't do it because it's principle, right? Because I'm very jealous of my work. I don't want to give any, you know, any non-human credit for my work, right? You know, if I do something, I want to put my name on it. I don't give credit to anybody else for that, right? And because I'm all about ownership, right? Capitalism, right? You got to own your work. There is, like, I think Atuzi did a video yesterday about like ownership over a meme, copyright ownership over a meme. I was like, what the? I'll give you. Oh, let me find it so you guys can watch that later. But Atozy, right? So ATOZY, and had to do with the Indonesian. Is it Indonesian or Singaporean? Yeah, the brain. Stop playing. So it's this one here, right? It's like brain rot, going to copyright brain rot material. So yeah, so they're gonna like try to copyright this thing, right? It's like an Indonesian like drum that's got to do with Islam or something, and now they're going to copyright it. Where are we? Yeah. Oh, I laughed when I saw Skibbity Toilet at EB Games, right? Electric Boutique, whatever they call it. I mean, whatever they call it elsewhere. But when I saw that, I was like, what the hell is this shit? Like, have we got to where like people just make up anything and put it out there with nothing to it? And it's just a meme shit. And just more, you know, just more meaningless plastic into the world, right? A bit like Funko Pop, but at least Funko Pop's based around, you know, actual shows or characters, movies, comic books, boxes, right? Bands, because I've got my, I actually have a Motorhead one, Funko Pop, like the actual full-on album. I think the Ace of Spades one, because I'm a huge, you know, I grew up on Motorhead and I'm a huge Motorhead fan. But in a couple of the comic book like boxes, like the, you know, the big ones that they put out. But Skibbity Toilet was like, what the? At the moment I went like, yeah, this is just becoming retarded, right? This is just like dumb. But yeah, I really when I saw the Skibbity Toilet, I was like, what is this? Every time we went past it, like at at EB Games, I was like laughing. I was like, dude, look at that. To my mate Jason, I was like, look at that, dude. This is I like people actually buy this shit. You know, I'm not sure if it still exists or if it's still around, but like, what? I don't like because I'm not like part of that whole generation, right? So I didn't really understand it. I'm sure there's some sort of like amazing concept idea behind it that makes absolutely no sense to me. Okay, did I get all her hair on this one? Do, do, do. Do, 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 do. I really like this song with do, 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 do. Anything still and not be undone. Man, I love to see how like I mean like for me like I love to see how how like a video to this made out of fully AI animation, right? A music video that is. I mean, I've gone to like where I don't have I've tried to stop myself from having knee-jerk reactions to everything, right? Oh, this movie sucks. Knee-jerk reaction before even seeing it, right? There's a couple of movies I wanted to watch that's coming up that looks really cool. One of the things like I've noticed is like there's a lot of little clips from movies, on shorts now that you can watch. Like I mean, I put up my own ones, right? Ones that like I like from what I'm watching. If I like the movie, if I enjoy, I'll put up a little clip on it or a trailer promoting it because I kind of enjoyed it, right? So I like to share it with other people. But I don't. I no longer like complain about things I haven't seen. Right? Unless, of course, it's like stupid, like race swapping and shit, and totally destroying literature or the original work. Because I think that's just retarded. I think people shouldn't do that. I mean, being a creator myself, I would I would hate to see anybody do that to my work. That's why I'm kind of like when it comes to stuff like that, I'm kind of vocal because as a creator, not as someone who's like just like consuming that shit. Yeah, that's got to be part of that. Do, do, do. Cannot be undone. Do, do. Take each stone. Do, 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 do. So this area would be her wings, I'd say. Just notice something here that's going to cause me problems. Oops. Big out there. And there. And I close all these lines off if you're like if you're coloring. Sometimes when you're changing the binarizing, right, to get the black and white, to get rid of all the background pencil marks and all that. Sometimes you might lose a little bit of like the shading that that ties the lines together. It might be very light, and that might be lost. So as a colorist, you got to go in there. Well, I guess as a color flatter, you got to go in there and fix it. And keeping my wings. LEDs done. Cannot be undone. There goes that line there. I'm going to get rid of that. It wouldn't matter because it's part of that, right? So that'll be purple as well. And that'll be purple as well. Or do I go? Wait. Maybe it's not her wings. Darn it. Hold on. Might have to fix that later. Figure out if that's a background. If that's just not, doesn't need to be a background at all. All right. Oops. I'm actually watching a series called Space 1999. It's from I think 1978 or something. Let me see if we can bring it up here. Yeah, this is it here. And it's the entire 48 episodes is actually on YouTube.
Hey, all this concern. Paul's gonna get jealous.
Yeah. Is that mobile? I think it's from 1968 or something like that. 78, maybe. Space 999. 75, 1975. It's from Jerry and Sylvia Anderson, if I remember right. So you want something old, classic, sci-fi to watch, I mean, compared to now, it looks dated, but like the stories, right? They're interesting. There's only one episode and a bit where I went like, man, that was just stupid. But it's about this what do you call that? That's space station built on the moon, and then the moon gets thrown out of thrown out of space, right? Out of Earth's out of our universe, and starts floating out into space. This show is like 51 years old right now, right? And I'm up to episode 15 of it. I remember watching this when I was a kid, and not like on replay, right, in the 80s, and not really understanding what it was about. Just like I didn't really understand, I guess I enjoyed it, but I didn't understand a lot of the early episodes of Star Trek. And now watch like the original series like about twice or three times through, because now it isn't, and I understand it better. I understand what's going on. Whereas when you're younger, you don't really understand what's going on unless somebody's there, this is a spaceship and, in space, and these are people doing this, and they're on a voyage, right? So there's a pretty interesting series, by the way. I thought it was quite, so if you're interested in watching something older and more classical, Space 1999 is, give it a go. And that's it for me now. I have, I think that's all I am capable of expanding, espousing, talking about today, or working. Might do some more work later, but need a break. So doesn't look like we got much done, but like, that's what I found like with coloring. It's like, even though it's just color flatting, it does take a bit of time to go through, and I'm pretty pedantic about like not missing out little areas and stuff, making sure that oops, there's the wrong color on that every little bit of white gets the color it's supposed to get. Just save this here. Thank you for hanging out with me and bearing with me over the last 2 hours and 50 minutes. Really appreciate it. Do check out the Kickstarter for the manga, for 40-page manga there. And then also, of course, the INCREDI-GIRL one as well, which is fully funded. But of course, love to get more people to get it into more people's hands. And all the variant covers are very low price because I want people to read the comic book. So thank you so much. And wherever you are, be well, be safe. We'll get you in the next one. Ka kite ano. And bye for now.
Nope, 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 nope. Can't stay here anymore. I gotta get back. I think this was the spot. Oh Lord, I beseech thee, please return me to my old life. I swear I'll do anything. Like, literally anything. And I won't bother you again, so pretty please bring me back to life.